All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard. This is LHI-Magic. I'm going to talk about Rule the Waves once again. And first thing we need to do is get the elephant in the room out of the way, and that's how to buy Rule the Waves 2. And you've probably heard it before from different people, but it's not simple. Let's just go with that. It's not simple. It's the builder of the program, the designer of the program, wants to keep it this way. This maximizes his revenue, and he's a small shop, so that's the way it is. So I've got the page up showing you. I'll put a link in the downloads. You add this to the cart, and then I'm going to bring up his activation page. So after you download that file, you can play for 4 days without activating it. So it gives you a good idea. If you get a chance, you can play for 4 days as a demo. Try it out, and after that, you'll have to email him at warshipfc@yahoo, and within 24 hours, you'll get, or within 48 hours, he says, you'll get a serial and an activation code back. It's we're kind of back to 1999 internet maybe or something. Anyway, I've done it twice. It works. It's not a big deal. Once you have it, you can move your program around wherever you need. You can take your license off one computer, move it to another one, and your license allows you to have 2 activations at the same time. So it's pretty reasonable once you get past the initial unusual nature of how it works. So, all right. Once you got that and you've downloaded the program and started it up, it looks like this. I'd make it bigger, but that's the size it is. In this case, we're going to start a new game. You have the choice. You can start at 1900 or 1920. I prefer the 1900 start. I prefer the battleship era, the big guns and all that. Once airplanes come in, they're fun, but it's a lot more management work. It's a lot harder to manage your carriers and launching strikes and all that stuff. So once they come in, it gets a little tedious. I've run a couple games all the way through with aircraft and all, but a lot of times I'll just stop once aircraft start to dominate, because it is a lot more fun to fight the AI with the big battleships and the armored cruisers and all that. So anyway, and I guess I could circle back and say what Rule the Waves is. Rule the Waves is a game that lets you simulate your 2 positions. You're kind of the first sea lord of a country, of a number of different countries, which we'll see in a second here, where you're managing your budget, you're interacting with your design bureau, or in this case, you're actually designing ships based on what technologies you have available, how you've allocated your research, and then the second half is you will get in wars with other nations, and you will have to fight these wars out as the fleet admiral, or it might only be commodore, or it might just be cruiser captain, or even just destroyer skipper as the random battle generator, depending on what battle you get. So anyway, coming back to now, you start in either 1900 or 1920. So we'll start in 1900. Here's where you can choose your countries. You've got Britain, France, Italy, Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Russia. Not shown on the map because it doesn't fit is Japan and the United States. And then there's a pull down. You can play as China, the Confederate States of America, as if there was a situation where they broke off and still existed, or you can play as Spain. So when you choose a country, it'll give you an idea, an overview of that country. Who's your leader, where you build, what's your normal budget, what the historical budget was, any issues. So in this case, Japan has an underdeveloped shipbuilding industry. They have a secret thing or a special ability called surprise attack. Their dock size starts at 10,000. And do they have oil? No, they don't have oil. Okay, then it goes through research advantages. In this case, the Japanese have a number of them. And then it'll tell you what guns your country has currently researched. So if we go from Japan to, say, Great Britain, we can see higher naval budget. If you remember, theirs was 20. This is 40. Technology leader, efficient shipbuilding. Starts with a bigger dock size, but hidden flaws. The British special ability, I guess, or special feature is that their ships have hidden flaws, and that's to reflect the fact that their turrets are prone, their ships are prone to blowing up if they take a turret hit, as based on what happened to the ships at Jutland, the battle cruisers at Jutland. It was a matter of the way the British were handling their ammo. They weren't closing the blast doors between the magazines and the turrets between every round, and because that way their gunnery was faster, which worked great in a peacetime situation. But once they actually had a wartime situation, now there was a vulnerability there. Anyway, so hidden flaws. Their research abilities are ship design, radar electronics, all forward main armament. That's a ship type or a design type, and flight deck. And their naval guns, they've got all the way up to 13-inch. So they've got some advantages over the Japanese. But with each power, you have to also look at what you have to control. Japan has a very small area to control, and so their budget and all that is not stretched. Britain has colonies all over the place, and you have to provide colonial ships to take care of your colonies. So there's some disadvantage with that. So it's pluses and minuses. Let's take a look at one more. Let's look at Italy. That's the current game we're playing. All right, so limited democracy, build areas of Mediterranean. Starting budget, game budget is 28,000. Their special abilities, I guess, features: cautious, poor education, inconsistent naval policy, some corruption. All right, all those together will mean you'll have points where you'll get a lot of money as Italy, and you'll have points where the government will bring money back and want to put it in other programs. And we'll see how that works. If you're not familiar, that has to do with the pop-ups that show up when you're playing a game. Dock size 15,000. They've got some advantages in ship design, triple turrets, motor torpedo boats, which show up not at your control, but you can build them like you can build coastal fortifications, and Motobomba FFF. All right, and they've got up to 12-inch naval guns. I don't know if you've noticed, but on the bottom, each time I click on a country, it changes the opponents that you will face. All right, so if I click on Britain, I mean, they're going to be pretty much the standard ones. So Germany, France, Russia, the US, Japan, and Italy. If I click on Italy, pretty much the same group, although they've added in Britain, France, we've added Austria-Hungary, Russia, and Germany. If I click on Japan, we get pretty much the same, but each one will have a group of people that they'll fight against. That's another thing to look at. Spain, get Germany, Austria, Hungary, Britain, Italy, France, and the U.S. So it's just different, different way to look at things, different ways to do something. We're going to choose Britain today for this tutorial because it'll allow us to have a little more money to play with, and it'll show. We'll be able to show the colonial support you'll need better with a country with a lot of colonies. So we're going to choose Britain, and so we'll say OK to that. And now we've got some choices. You put in your name, it automatically fills in Fisher, so sort of you're simulating being Jackie Fisher in 1900, 1901, somewhere in there. Let's see. I'll add a little home thing, Fisher McMagic. That'll be my name for this. And that's just RP, no other information. Your fleet sizes. This will dictate what each country's fleet size. The game recently updated a few updates ago to go to very large and super large, which are very big fleets. We'll go with larger today. We're just again just for the tutorial. All right. Next button down is historical resources. If you choose that, remember we saw in Britain the budget was about half if you choose historical research or historical resources. All right, so we're not going to do that. We want more money so we can build and build more things to fight the AI. All right, research rate is how fast your country develops technology. And if you leave that at 100%, technologies will develop at the rate that they did historically. And so there's on the NWS forums page, there's a page that lists on the wiki for Rule the Waves, it lists when each technology comes into play. And let's see if I can bring that up. You know what? I'll start a new window so we can talk about that. All right, we'll throw that up here. All you do is Google Rule the Waves Wiki Tech Tree. And here you go. It's got the list here of all the various technologies and when they come into effect. So first thing we're looking at is machinery development. And you can see there's a number 1900, 1901, 1902, 1903, 1904, 1905, 1906, 1908, then nothing until 1912. So if you had focused on research and machinery, after 1908, when you get small tube boilers, you could focus that research somewhere else for the next 3 or 4 years, because you won't get that tech if you have it set on standard following a historical model. Same thing with armor development. All of these will give you the dates. So if you really want to maximize your research, what you can do is come here, see what techs are going to pop off that year that you're in, and make sure that you have those set on high, and you're not wasting time on technology that's not going to go for a while. So just an idea. So here's another one under turrets and gun mountings. After 1908, there's really nothing until 1914. So that's a that's a 6-year gap that you could be putting money into something else. Anyway, it's just something to keep in mind. Anyway, so that's historical research rate. If you lower that, things will develop more slowly. It will go all the way down to 10% research rate, which I generally do that. I generally go lower, like 10 or 20%, because that keeps the game. It takes longer to develop aircraft, and so it keeps the game in that big gun battleship era longer. When you do get breakthroughs, they're more valuable because they are take so long, and so you can have the generations between ships are more are longer. So you might have, if you popped an interesting tech that gave you an advantage, you could have maybe 4 or 5, half dozen ships of that tech, and another nation might not have that yet. So it makes it for more varied combat and all that. It's today we're going to leave it on 100, just because we do want to see some text popping, and just for the tutorial. All right, next button that you can adjust is varied technologies. What that'll do is vary when technologies, right? Like I said, if you do nothing, it will go basically on a historical basis. Once a technology was available historically, you have a chance of discovering it. And the other nations, same thing. They have a chance of discovering it. It's not 100%. It's not at 1903 you get small tube boilers because in 1903 that was developed. It's that you can figure it out after the historical time. If you choose varied technologies, it will change that. It will mix up the dates that things were developed and discovered. It won't give you something impossible before something else, but it will vary the dates to make a more random game. That's a button I generally check. I like a little chaos and adversity, and that really will. There's an opportunity with that where you could easily have a technology that another nation doesn't even know about, doesn't even know exists, and so that can give you a good advantage fighting the AI. We'll leave it off today because we want to keep everything as generic as we can, just for the tutorial, just for the learning today. All right, harsher peace deals, and if you mouse over these, it'll sometimes give you a little help. All right, so harsher peace deals means it's harder to get peace treaties. So we'll see when you're in a fight, once you've won enough, you get enough victory points, the other nation will start to want to go to the peace table, to negotiating table, and stop the war, because they're losing more than whatever their war aims were. If you click this, it'll be harder to get a peace treaty with them. Generally, peace treaties are hard enough as it is, so I leave that off. AI advantage will give a budget to AI nations. I haven't tried that. I'm still not 100%, anywhere near 100% winning against the AI. It has some other little tricks and things it pulls, so I don't think I need that. Slow aircraft development, I do normally click that just for the same reason, is aircraft development is slower than historical. That allows us to play with those big gun battleships longer. All right, maximum airbase size. I don't change that. 100 is a good size for an airbase. If you change this, it's my understanding that it only changes your air bases, not the AI. Now that might have changed. There's been a couple patches since I heard that, but I don't want to do something to hurt me again against the AI while giving them more advantage. And then the last checkbox is manual build of legacy fleet. So when you start the game, when we hit OK here, we're gonna start the game, and it will automatically build that fleet that you had leading up into 1900. So there'll be all the designs will basically say built in 1899 with the tech from around that era. It'll automatically do that or give you enough budget that you can build or be building your own fleet. I'd say the first time you play, just don't check that. Just let it build a fleet because it'll start off a lot harder if you don't even know what you're designing. You haven't even seen any designs and you're trying to figure out how to make them. So at first leave that off. Once you played the game a little, it's fun to go in and come up with really maximize the budget by only building what you want. Some of the things, and we saw with the Italy game, some of the cruisers that it built were ones I never would have. And you'll find that kind of stuff where it's the AI legacy build will maybe not be exactly what you want. So once you've done it for a while, you might want to try that. All right, I'm going to put this in game slot 9. You select a game slot, and then you hit OK, and it's going to think for a little bit, and it's going to pop us into the main screen. All right. So here we are on the main screen. You've got tabs up at the top. First thing it shows you is your ships in service. The next tab, first tab, but it's not clicked, is the map. Shows you the map, and I'm just going to touch on this. We'll come back to it for sure, but you'll notice it says tonnage on foreign stations down below, and we're minus 31,900, almost 32,000 tons lower than what we need. If you'll look, everywhere that there's a exclamation point, that's a place that we're lower. And if you mouse over that, it'll show you. Okay, so in the Med, we're 16,000 tons short. In Southeast Asia, we're 9,000 tons short. And Southern Africa, we're 6,000 tons short. All right. We'll jump back to that, but just so while you're looking at the map, if you wonder what was that on the side. And anyway, on this side, it shows you all the sea areas there are on the game, and then you can click and what ships are in what location. So if you need to look at an area, see where a ship was, you can do that, or what possessions you have in that location. So if we go to the Med, we're going to see, okay, our flag is the British flag. We've got Malta, Egypt, Gibraltar, and Cyprus. Italy owns Libya. France owns Tunisia. Italy owns Rhodes. Albania, the blank ones are currently independent countries, and there'll be events where those where they try to become truly independent. Other countries can try to influence them and take over, and we'll see the results of that. All right, so that's pretty much the map. Mouse wheel will zoom in. You can scroll around, or like I did, I inadvertently clicked on a base. So if you click on the flag for a base, it'll tell you what ports are in that area, what your base capacity is, and the value of that base. You can improve it, costing some money, and you can add fortifications. So you can add coastal batteries. 6 or 8 inch are generally reasonable. And you notice this one is listing everywhere in that sea zone. Actually, this is listing everywhere. So we want Egypt is what we were at. We could add 1 or 2 6-inch batteries, and that'll give us our cost. Anyway, all right, back off that. But that's the map. You can open up this tab for strength bars, and it'll show you your strength versus other countries in that area. So if we look down at the Med again, we can see Italy makes pretty good sense. Italy is very strong in the Med. We're not that strong. We know we need to add forces to the Med anyway because we saw that before. That's part of our foreign station requirement. We're very powerful in Northern Europe. Everywhere else we have a smattering of units, so that's, you can use those graphs. Another thing that comes up from the map is invasions. When you're at war, you can try to invade someone. The circle will give you an idea of your invasion ranges. So from Alexandria, we can't quite reach Rhodes, but from Limassol, Cyprus, we have enough. So if we were at war with Italy, we would have the opportunity to try to invade Rhodes if we wanted. And there's a few other things. You have to have sufficient tonnage greater than the other country to even be able to do it, and then you've got to win a couple of battles, including an invasion battle. If they wipe out your troop ships, your invasion fleet, your transports, then the invasion doesn't go off. All right. Anyway, back to the main screen. So up here, so this tab is your ships on active fleet, and we'll go through that in more detail. Next is your ships under construction. This is what you got going on, and tells you the type. So pretty clear. We'll go back to this. B, that's for battleship. These are naval designations. CA is armored cruiser. CL is a light cruiser. DD is for destroyer. You'll also see KE for corvette, AMC for armed merchant cruiser, which is basically a merchant ship that's got some guns thrown on it. And BC will show up, which is a battle cruiser, and BB, which is a dreadnought era battleship. But right now, this era, all we can build is just regular pre-dreadnought battleships. All right. Ships under construction. We've got one battleship, 15,600 tons, the Revenge class. It's going to be called the Hood. Its speed is 19 knots. That's design speed. We'll see when it gets made if that works out. Sometimes ships come in a knot over or under that. It's being built in a local yard. It's got 14 months until it completes construction, and it's costing us $2,149 a month, and then we get a brief description of the ship. So we can see it's got 4 12-inch guns, 16 6-inch guns as a secondary armament, and 2 torpedo tubes. All right. We'll go through all the tabs, then we'll come back to the main tab and talk more about the ships. All right. Submarines, if we had any submarines, right now we don't have the technology, they'd be here. Coastal fortifications, it's telling us the type of coastal fortifications we have. In England, we've got some 4-inch batteries, some 6-inch batteries, and in the Solomon Islands and in British Columbia, we have some 6-inch batteries. Once we fought some wars, under ship sunk, this will be populated with ships we have lost. Area overview gives you an idea of each of those different areas. So we talked about the Mediterranean. We've got those 4 possessions. Total base capacity is 260. Our strength is 20. Our tonnage there is 18,999. Our required tonnage is 35. So that's where we get that one of those factors for our shortage in tonnage on foreign stations. And then how much mine laying and mine sweeping we could do in those areas, or the count. It's just kind of a count to give you an idea what mine laying and mine sweeping, and that's comes later. Right now we don't have that capability pretty much at all. We can go into our base overview. It'll show our different bases. So we looked at Egypt before. Egypt, we have a base capacity of 50. There's no aircraft base or airship bases there. We haven't designed them yet. And so that'll pretty much give you an idea of that. So that a lot of information going on up there, a lot of different things. You'll tend to spend the majority of your time in the map, the ships in service, or the ships under construction portion. All right, coming down below that, and we will come back to talk about the ships. Coming down below that, we've got kind of your let's call it your country dashboard, or your these are your levers and buttons that you can make things happen. All right. First thing and most important is looking at the center line, your budget. Right now we've got a yearly budget of 280,680 ducats. Those are millions. Rule the wave 1, add 3 more decimals or 3 more zeros. So you'll hear people say that this is 5,298,000 or whatever. But 280,680 is your budget, whatever your currency is. It's normalized for all the countries so that it remains fair. You've got a monthly budget, a maintenance cost, and that maintenance cost is directly tied to this cost of the maintenance of all these ships. You've got a construction cost, monthly construction cost, the monthly cost, and that 8341 is the cost of that battleship and those 3 armored cruisers being built, and that works. That you can see that's about 8 plus about in that range, 8341. If we had aircraft, those have a cost. Research currently set on 8%. That's costing us $1,800 a month. So almost as much as building a ship is our research cost. All right, enhanced training. There's a line for that. Intelligence, there's a line for that. We'll see those, and we'll see when they go up. Then you've got your total expenses, your monthly balance, so that's budget minus expenses. And then you've got some funds available that anything over. So in this case, if we did nothing this turn, but go to next turn, we would go forward 1 month, and we would add 5,298 to this because we didn't spend any of that money. Simple. That's pretty much what goes on. So now each of these buttons here we'll go through very quickly. Design ship, we'll see that a lot more. You open that up and it takes you to the ship design page. Easiest way to start this, choose the type of ship you want. And then, all right, so if I know I'm going to need corvettes to help me with my foreign service tonnage and also with trade protection during a war. I know I'm going to build some corvettes. So in this case, I'll choose a corvette. Choose the type of ship you want here. Then just hit the little computer icon and mouse over it, says auto design ship. It's going to say, do you want to design a corvette? Yeah, KE, I do. And then it'll give you, it's designed for a corvette. You can choose it. You can try another one, see if you like it better. You can keep going through that. We're not going to get too deep into ship design right now, especially not looking at a corvette. But once everything is the way you want it, and we'll go a lot further into this. Maybe that might be a whole nother tutorial. Anyway, once you have the ship designed the way you want today, we've got 2 5-inch guns, no secondaries or tertiaries, no additional armament, no flight decks or anything. We've got a 900-ton, 21-knot corvette with normal accommodations. All right, once you've got all that, then best thing is to click on the red check mark just to confirm. In this case, it's telling us our rate of fire is -10, and I happen to know that's because our 5-inch guns are a little heavy for a 900-ton design, so they'll fire a little slower. Is that the end of the world? No, I'm going to live with that. But if it was something I wanted to change, so if I didn't like that, I could say, okay, I could make these 4-inch guns. Try it again. It's going to say all okay. Normally, for most ships, your weight remaining, you want to drive that down as close to 0 as you can, unless you're leaving some for a special reason. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So this is all okay. Once you're done, you save that. It'll tell you, okay, this ship's saved as the Elm Garth. That came up with its own name. You can suggest a class name, or you can get it to suggest one, or you can fill one in. Do you want to start developing a design? It's going to cost 188 and take 1 month. Okay, we've got 188, so we'll say yes. Now, if we go to our design study, our ships under construction, we can see we've got a design study for the Elms Garth. All right, there's a lot to it. Just keep with me. It's not really that tough. Weasel Boy, welcome aboard. Good to see you. Sorry, I'm reading the spreadsheet so tightly here. I didn't even see you walk in. Anyway, yeah, if you've got Rule the Waves 1, it's similar. I think Rule the Waves 2 is better. It goes further. It's got a longer tech tree. It'll go to 1950, so you've got a lot more, and the developers are working on missiles to add and all that. We'll see how that is. But anyway, it's Rule the Waves. If you play Rule the Waves 1, it'll just make you want to play Rule the Waves 2. So, all right. Milespot, welcome aboard as well. All right, the next tab after Design Ship is Build Ship, and that pop-up will show you all the ship designs that are current. And in this case, since we just started the game and we did a legacy build, we let it build our legacy ships. It'll show you all the ships that are available to be built. If you forgot what they were, you can sort by type, you can sort by class name, or you can sort by displacement. Yes, they're free, or discount upgrade path is pay full price. That's the it's a single designer, single or maybe has one partner. They're trying to make a living off this stuff, so they're that's his decision. I personally think if he went with Steam, it might be a little better, but that's the way they want to do it. They think it's definitely a niche product, and so anyway, normally it's sorted just by name. That's the way they do it, but you could sort by type. So if we wanted to build another of these Andromeda cruisers, we would just select it. We could suggest a name and the number we want to build, and it will tell us the total cost of that ship, how long it's going to take, the monthly build cost, and then the maintenance cost after it's built. So this all give us an idea. We're going to balance. We don't want to have a negative deficit, so we want to make sure that, and sometimes we'll run up surplus of funds and then build ships, use it up, but we don't. If you go negative on your monthly balance, you'll wind up getting replaced. That'll end the game. The Prime Minister will fire you, and that will end the game. So you don't want to go negative on your not your monthly balance. I'm sorry, negative on your total funds. You get too deep in the hole, and you'll get replaced. So we would choose the name, choose the number we want to build, and just say OK. After you've been playing for a while, older designs will slip off this display. Right now we don't have any, and so to show those, you would click the Show Older Designs, and then a lot of times, especially Corvettes, you really don't need to do anything but just You need to keep adding them as your empire grows. So a lot of times those will slip off the main page, but still be perfectly fine to design. All right, we're going to cancel that because we're not going to do that. Next thing would be build subs. Right now we can't because we don't have a type. There'd be a type of subs, coastal, whatever, and we would do that. Right now that's a research area that we don't have. We can build a coastal fortification or upgrade a base. We saw this before, and it will tell you same thing as the ships. It'll tell you, you can choose. All right, if I want to build a 6-inch coastal battery in Egypt, where we were before, it's going to take 6 months, cost 2,400 total, so 400 per month, and then cost us 16 going forward. Air groups, we don't have any yet, so that's a long time away, but this is the page you'll use to choose where your air groups are, what bases, what ships, and one got you here just as a note when you get to that stage of air groups. If you disband an air group because you want to clear it off of someplace to put a new one or replace one or copy, those air groups will go back to untrained. Their crew quality will be low. So if you've got a bunch of experts, and you cut paste them and move them somewhere else without moving them the right way, which is right click, choose, move to reserve, then from reserve move them back, you can lose your skilled aviators. You'll have to build them back up. Anyway, all right. Important page. The next one is doctrine and training. This has a few things. First thing is your training section. You can give your crews extra training in up to 2 of these items. So you've got gunnery, night fighting, or torpedo warfare. You probably, maybe if you're playing this game, you're probably a history buff, and you probably heard that during World War II, the Japanese in the Pacific were very good at night fighting and very good at torpedo usage. So if I was playing to Japan and I wanted to play historically, I would probably click both of those. You can't click. You can't click 3. Click 3 and it tells you can only click 2. This does increase your maintenance costs by 40% for 2 of them, and 20% for 1 of them. And so that's just giving you right now what that cost is, and that maintenance cost will go up as that 20% will increase as your overall maintenance cost goes up. Once you hit apply, it'll take 12 months before that goes into effect. And once that 12 months goes by, then all your crews will be trained in that skill that you've chosen, or those 2 skills that you've chosen. Oftentimes, early war, I'll train gunnery because before you get better fire control, and I don't know if this helps. This is just me. Different other people that I watch play the game don't waste any money on that. They say it's ridiculous, and save their money for more ships. Because if you look, that again, that's the cost, pretty much the cost of another armored cruiser every year, which that may be another armored cruiser may be much more valuable than a 10% chance to hit, extra hit, or a 10% chance increased hitting when your percentage is so low. Anyway, you'd hit apply, takes 12 months. You've got a few more down here. You've got some various items. Eventually you'll get the tech for oxygen fueled torpedoes. You can choose to use them or not because they do increase the chances of torpedo explosions on deck. Once you get pilots, you can do elite pilot training. Float plane, you can have them prioritize search or not, and that's kind of your training and doctrine. Then the next section is your ship ammo loadout. Unless you have a special reason, this works out pretty well. I wouldn't change this. All guns have armor piercing AP or high explosives HE, and you can switch the balance of those. Your bigger guns, all right, so 11 plus, 80% are going to be armor piercing because those are your battleship guns that are really going to be used to try to break through a armor of a large battleship and destroy it. So that 80% of their ammos at default is going to be floatplane search priority. It just means floatplanes are going to um, they're going to be prioritized to search as opposed to them getting bombs on them or anything like that. So it's a kind of a tech, and I'll confirm that there's a I think it's a 1,000-page manual. But all right, continuing on. So for your big guns, I leave this all as it is, unless you have some sort of situation where you need to change something, and it might be there might be a case where you've fallen behind and you don't have good AP rounds. In that case, it might be important, or it might have value for your smaller ships to go with a higher percentage of HE to kind of to just break superstructure and things on ships, maybe. But anyway, that's available. That's the one thing. There's plenty of buttons and hooks in this whole thing. All right, then you've got a ammo usage doctrine based on target. So the first one is if the target's a capital ship, a large ship, a battleship, per-dreadnought, or battlecruiser. Your smaller guns at close range are going to use AP, because if you get close enough with a 6-inch shell, you might be able to bust through the extended belt or part of that battleship or battlecruiser especially. So that makes sense. But at medium and long range, they switch to HE because you're just not going to, as the round loses effectiveness, you're not going to break through that, 9 to 12 to 9 or 12 or more inches of belt armor. But you can still damage the superstructure, damage their conning tower, things like that with HE. 7 to 10-inch guns, those are your kind of medium. That's what your armored cruisers are using as their main guns, is 7 to 10-inch guns generally. Same thing, and you notice that the default, and again, you might change these based on something that you want to do or want your, either for RP or just because it's something you're interested in or it makes sense. But they're going to fire AP at short and medium. They've got the larger gun has a little more punch, and then at long range they're going to go HE. Gun caliber 11 plus, it's auto set to AP all the way. That's what you want. If you change one of those, you click Save Changes. Simple enough. All right. So that's if you're going against a battleship. Next, if you're going against an armored cruiser, and you can see the same sort of design. Target is a light cruiser. You can see now here's a minor difference. Light cruiser, the 6-inch guns can probably get through a light cruiser armor piercing at medium range, so that's been changed to that. This is all default, probably digging too deep and scaring people off, but I like, you got to at least know what's available. This one, I didn't even know this was here for the first couple games I played. I didn't even know I could do this. Then I saw somebody open it up. I'm like, oh, that's what that button is. All right. Anyway, so that's how you can set those kind of things. The gunnery, torpedo warfare, maybe. Night fighting, another one as it gets as it goes along, might be worth doing, might make more sense. They don't tell you exactly what it does. It just, your crews are trained so they would be more efficient. You don't have actual numbers. Anyway, once you're done, next one is an important one. This is the research box. Couple things on here. Your research budget as your percentage of total budget. I recommend going at least 10% on that. Most people go 12. That's the most you can put into it. There are decreasing gains after 10. So to kind of maximize your advantage, maximize your money, 10% is the bucket for that. That's the best place. 12 maybe gets you a little more, but 10. We'll use 10. All right. Then you've got all the different areas of development. And like we talked about, go to the spreadsheet. If you're playing on with everything standard, you can go on the spreadsheet, and I'm looking at the first one, top one, machinery development. So we got machinery development. And we can see in 1900 and 1901, 1902, 1903, and 1904, 1905, 1906, we get tech, and all that's pretty important. 1% weight savings, steam turbines, really important. Oil firing, really important. So with all that, it's worth maybe prioritizing your machinery development. And if you want to do that, you just right-click, select it, right-click on it, and you can go low, medium, or high. So we'll put that on high priority. Now, again, this is a thing that everybody will do. If they put something on high, they'll put something else on low, so they don't spread out. If you put everything on high, it's as if you did nothing. All right. So I've got an advantage in ship design, so I'm going to also put that on high. I don't want to lose that. Naval guns, I always put on high, because the better guns, really, that's getting those better quality guns makes a huge difference. Submarines, those are not very British. So we'll put those on low. I don't think torpedoes also very, very unsporting. We'll put those on low. And right now we're going to put hull construction. It is important, but we'll put that on low. You can spend a lot of time here going back and forth trying to figure out exactly what. Like fire control is another one that should always at least be on medium, especially early in the game. Getting to the next fire control item is very important. If you go to details, it'll show you what you've researched. So far, we've researched nothing in any of these areas. That's why they're marked as zeros. And then the other tab on here. So basically that's it. Set your research priorities the way you want. You could leave everything medium, leave everything high, leave everything low, or balance it out, and then think about swapping after a couple years. So after about 1906, well, sorry about that. My microphone decided I wasn't talking. I thought I was. Anyway, after about 1906, you may want to drop machinery research or machinery development for a little while, for a couple years. But again, set your priorities. The other tab, naval guns, it'll tell you what guns you have and what their quality. So -2, we've got -2 quality 13-inch guns. Those are really lousy. We'll show you the differences here when we go back to a ship design. Got -1 quality 12-inch guns. Got good quality 0 8-inch guns. We haven't researched 14-inch, 15-inch, 16-inch, 17, 18-inch guns. But so that gives us an idea. And -2 is pretty bad quality. -1, they're okay. Quality 0, definitely better. Quality -1, a little worse. Quality 0 gun of 1 inch less will be as good or a little better than the next size up. That's quality -1. We'll take a look at that in a bit. All right, next tab is fleet exercise. you can have your ships go and do a fleet exercise, and this will usually nothing major, nothing awful happens, you know, but it will allow you to put ships in and kind of get an idea. You can play it out and get an idea what ships, how well they work against each other, maybe work on some tactics. And I believe the ships will get some experience, can get some experience from that. So your crews, which you can see our crews quality here, is all fair. That may go up a little. Anyway, yes, I didn't select anybody. I don't want to really do one. Aircraft types. Once you get to aircraft, this will be more important. Right now, it's pretty quiet. One of the important tabs is request proposal. Once you have it, once you start getting aircraft, you have to send out your proposals to the aircraft design boards to come up with the type of aircraft you want. We'll see that maybe at some point. All right. Got a mobilization and reserve button. Mobilize will mobilize all your fleet. Right now, all of our ships are in active status. So active fleet. Hitting the all reserve will put them all in reserve. And then a preferences button. Preference button, there's another bunch of levers and dials here that you can press on. First one is first row is when should the game pause during the battle, and what should it tell me? All right, so I have it set to do not pause on hits. Otherwise, every time it stops as soon as something gets hit. But some people like to dig down to that level. Pause on identification of enemy ships. I have it turned off as well. You'll see as the game is going, you'll see a ship change from unidentified to an identification, so you can stop then and look. So I don't think that's I don't think it's something that you really need. Open fire mission message. Should you say when someone opens fire? I do. Cruisers and battleships, I like to know when they start shooting. It just gives me an idea of their range and what they're doing. All right, you could have the AI control all the friendly forces if you just want to play this only as the Jackie Fisher and not as the fleet admiral. You could do that. Flotation damage warning. All right, so continuing on with what you can pause on. Capital ships. If I lose flotation on one of my capital ships, I want to know about it, so it will stop and warn me. We got a float plane launch. Ask before launch. The reason that is because ships will have to stop and launch float planes until they get catapults for them. So it's nice to know. It will say, hey, such and such is going to stop and do this. So in the later game, you'll have float planes on your battleships and your large armored cruisers, and you might have a plan for them, and you might not want them to stop. Air combat messages. Those get a little crazy, but I leave them on because that's where you'll see your aircraft coming in. You'll see whether they got through the enemy's cap and through their AAA, and then what they've done. Air and surface AA messages, I turn all those on. Those are fun just to see, and those don't stop the game. They just write. Okay, depending on what you choose, the next is initial AI control of subordinate divisions. So depending on what realism setting you have here will depend on how far down your chain of command that you can actively control your ships. In captain's mode, you can take control of pretty much any ship that's assigned to you, with some caveats. If their bridge has been destroyed, they might not listen to you. A few other things. If they're too far away, they might not. But pretty much you can select a ship and take charge of that division. If you have it in captain's mode, you could choose, all right, I don't want to be in charge of every cruiser and destroyer, or I don't want to be in charge of every destroyer flotilla, or I want to be in charge of everybody. I leave that on destroyers. Destroyers are usually assigned to your other flotillas as screens and supports, and that's pretty much where you want them. It would be just extra button clicking. All right, then you've got a whole bunch of other reasons to pause the battle. New sighting, new report, torpedo hit. Like to know that. Own ship sinking or sunk. That's nice to know when you lose a ship. Other serious messages: when you see a submarine, air attacks, air combat, and show aircraft approach message when you're getting near aircraft. Those are all nice to see, and they don't really slow the game down too much. All right, back up here to realism settings. We talked about it. In Admiral's mode, you won't be able to choose. You'll be in charge of basically the flotilla or section that the Admiral is in. Probably a 4-ship section of battleships most of the time. Rear Admiral's mode, you can dig down a little further. You won't have full control, but you'll have control. In Captain's mode, you'll have full control, but it will cost you 20% victory points in any battle if you take full control. Still worth it, I think. I like it in Captain's mode. For the min-maxers out there, you can take full control of your ships. It's definitely, and the good thing is, if you don't want to, you can put them on AI, let the AI run some of it, and you can choose to run the part of the battle you want. Support forces, those are additional forces you can't control that may show up. They're good to have. I've had times where I've been being chased by the AI fleet, and I've been able to move into range of a support force and wind up winning the battle because of that. So that's nice. And a random element, always friendly. Turret flash fires, you can select reduced flash fire risk. If you're playing the British and you really don't want to be historical, click that. I leave it off. Land line of sight calculation, that just has to do with how far out do they look for land. How far the AI looks to land. So if you got a low power system, you're running this on your 10-year-old laptop, and that's one thing that I will say. The nice thing about this game is it will run on pretty old hardware, which is nice. Anyway, if you run on really old hardware, you might want to turn that off just to help out your processor a little. Interface, run to point on course click. So you could, when you're given a course to a ship, this would automatically turn it to that way. Autosave every hour is reasonable for during a game. And then auto delete old ship designs. You could save them if you want or delete them. You really aren't using them after too long. So, all right, that's preferences. Oof. And that fills out this box. Oh, I forgot, over on the far left is some more interesting information. Top one is prestige. That's your measure of how well you're doing. If that goes too low, you will also get fired, so it's another way to end the game. Your tonnage on foreign stations, we talked a lot about that. You've got to have that much. It won't let me progress right now. If I hit the turn button, it'll warn me. It will let me, but it'll warn me there's insufficient ships on foreign stations. Continue anyway. I'll say no, because that will get the Prime Minister angry. It will also make foreign possessions revolt when there's not enough of your force around to keep them stable. Next thing down is dock size. Right now, we remember 16,000. We can build that. We can't right yet because it costs a couple thousand, so we've got to wait to process a turn. And then is an unrest level. Right now, we're unrest level is 2, so the people aren't happy at the amount of money we're spending on our Navy and on building more stuff. All right, build requirements. Occasionally, the prime minister or whoever your government is will request certain things. Okay, I heard submarine warfare is important. You must be building 12 submarines. If you accept it, it'll show up, and you'll have a few months to get it going. Because obviously you have to design. There's got to be lead time for design and all that. But if you don't meet that after the time expires, you will lose prestige. So you don't want to do that. There are peace treaties in the game. There can be peace treaties. This will tell you how long the peace treaty is in effect, and it will give you the limits of what the peace treaty is. So it might say battleships of 12,000 tons, for example. Invasion range, we talked about that on the map, that invasion range. This gives you the number of what it is, and that will go up based on research. We go back to, we see, I believe it's light forces and torpedo warfare will increase that, but we'll see as we go along. All right, so that's those two panels. The third panel over here is your tension levels with the various countries. You've got some ability to spy on them. So intel effort, we're already, and then the various countries' flags, and then the bar tells you how much tension there is. Once the bar gets above this black line up here, your chances of going to war with that country get pretty close to 1-to-1. All right, so right now we've got a little extra tension with Germany. It's level 4. Lower tension with Russia and the U.S. Even lower still with Japan and Italy. If you want to increase tension, so if you wanted to get in a fight with someone, you would click this button to increase intel, because you'll add more spies. Some spies will be discovered, or they'll discover that you're spying on them, which tends to increase tension. The other thing adding that intel does, if we look, I'll put it back to 0, look over here, intelligence in the lower part of on our budget line is 0. If I go and raise that up, you can see that intelligence cost goes up a little. Not too much. Intelligence of that much costs about the same. So high intel effort costs about the same as the maintenance on a heavy cruiser at this stage, just to give you an idea. To get an idea of whether I want to fight one of these countries or not, there's a thing called the Almanac. You click on that. It'll give you an overview of your country and the other countries that you could potentially go to war with. So looking at Germany is pressing us a little bit. We've got 15 battleships in service and 1 being built, 230,000 tons. They've got 10 in service. They're building 3, so they're trying to catch up, and currently they have 175,000 tons. We've got 7 armored cruisers, and we're building 3. They've got 6, and they're not building anymore. Armored cruisers go through an interesting phase. Just to step out, talk history a little bit. During this time, they're still pretty valuable because the battleships aren't much better. So you take a battleship, you add more armor onto it, you put bigger guns, it gets slower. Your armored cruisers have decent-sized guns, a little less armor, slightly smaller guns, but they're faster, so they can get away from your battleships. So they start out being a valuable asset. They can hunt down cruisers, they can support your battle line, and they make a decent scouting force. Not too far in the future, battle cruisers come online, and they're basically a battleship guns on a faster and more armored than an armored cruiser chassis. They're designed to hunt down armored cruisers and kill them and run away from regular battleships. When this happens, armored cruisers become a dangerous thing to have out there. You can kind of balance it by making them faster and faster, but speed is always costs money in this game. The more machinery you need for speed, the more the ship costs. So anyway, so right now, yes, exactly, eggs fighting with hammers. Once you get, especially in the light cruisers, that's when you can really get that. You can have a light cruiser with 2 inches of armor with a 6-inch gun that'll go through 3 or 4 inches of armor up close, and that gets to be quite the fight. So your armored cruisers from 1900 to sometime 1908 to 1912, they have value, but then they become prey, and so right now it looks to me that Germany is concentrating their budget on their battleships and not on their armored cruisers. Light cruisers, we've got 19. We're not building any. They've got 12. Destroyers, we've got 35. They've got 33. We're not building some. We need to be building some. And there's no submarines. No one knows how to make submarines or airships or aircraft at this time. If you click on the flag, you can see what their basic things are. Their budget, we saw that above before. What they're building, what they have, and you can also look at their ships. If they're building them, you won't be able to get any information. So if I double click on this, nothing happens. But if it's a ship that was already built, like this Wuth class, double click on that and it'll give you a picture of that ship and give you an idea of what that is. And we'll look at this a little bit because we're going to compare it to a couple of our battleships just to see. So the first thing when you look at these overhead designs, I look over here, tells you the guns installed on the ship. So it's got 4 10-inch guns. So obviously those are those 2 turrets. Remember, we said armored cruisers can have guns up to 10 inches. So although this is classed as a battleship, it's carrying armored cruiser level guns, and that has to do with Germany's only having 11-inch guns at this time. It's got 18 6-inch guns in a secondary battery, 9 on each side. Looking at those, I can see they're in casements, not in turrets. And it's got 14 3-inch guns as a tertiary armament. Those 3-inch guns are really good against destroyers. They fire fast, and at 3 inches is enough to get through that destroyer armor. Coming over to the center, it'll tell you the class of the ship and the name. I guess in this case it's name, and then the speed it can go and its displacement. So 13,300 tons, and it's designed for 18 knots. It can make 18 knots. Then over on the right is the armor. It'll tell you the various different armor. In this case, he just has a 9-inch. All we know is he's 9 inches on the belt. All right, let's look at one of their armored cruisers. Have Victoria Louise class. Okay, this is the Victoria Louise class. We know because that's what we clicked on, but it's called the Hertha. 4 8-inch guns, again in 2 double turrets. 8 6-inch guns, so 4 each side. 8 3-inch guns. They don't display the 3-inch guns on this overhead display, so you just have, they're there. The 6-inch guns they do. And again, those are encasements. Casements are basically non-turreted. They have an angle of fire they can do. It's designed for 20 knots. It can do 20 knots. It's 9,600 tons, and it has 4 inches of armor. The max armor for a cruiser, I think 8 inches, maybe 6 inches, maybe 7, somewhere around 8. It will turn it into a battleship or a battle cruiser. But this is what I would call fairly lightly armed. Anyway, so that's how you can tell information about a country that you might want to fight. And then you can see what ships they've lost. Obviously, none yet. So, and if you go back to all, you can see your budget versus other countries' budgets, just to get an idea. And that budget will go up as time goes on based on events. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? All right. So, to take a deeper look at any of your ships, you can double left click on them and you'll get that same design. You can set the colors of your decks. That's settings in the game. The default is British blue. So you can look at it like this. So similar to that German ship, we've got 4 10-inch guns, 12 7-inch, so a little larger secondaries, and 12 3-inch. Any secondary armament over 6 inches has the potential to cause fires if it gets hit, flash fires. So it's a more dangerous thing. If you're going to have larger secondary armament, you want to make sure that you have secondary armor to cover it. Okay, so it's a Rodney. It's a Camperdown class, 13,900 tons, 19-knot ship. Our armor is 8.5-inch belt. You only get the belt on enemy ships. On your ships, you'll see everything. We've got 2 inches on our deck, 8 inches on our turrets. That's good because we don't want flash fires. 6 inches for our secondary battery. That's really good at this time and definitely important. And 10 inches on our conning tower. To get a more detailed view of your ships, you can right-click and choose Open Design, and that'll bring you to the design page, and that lets you look at all the details of the ship. You can also open it for redesign if you have some technologies pop off and it makes sense to redesign it. So we can see here it's a Camperdown pre-dreadnought battleship. It's saying 10% change because it's assuming we're going to make changes. 13,900 tons, normal freeboard, medium range, normal accommodations. Generally important to keep those normal unless you have a special reason to. You can make a low freeboard ship which will save you weight, but at the cost of seaworthiness. You can make a short-range ship, again, will save you weight, but during a war, a short-range ship can't go between sea zones, so it's stuck in the zone it was designed in. It saves you a lot of weight, so you can build a more powerful ship, but it's stuck wherever you have it. Might make sense for coastal monitors or something like that, or if you're a country like Italy or Spain, which is pretty much the Mediterranean, is, especially Italy or Austria-Hungary, where you're just going to operate in the Med. And accommodation, you can go cramped, which will save some space, but at the cost of crew comfort, and you can actually get crews coming down with disease and becoming worse off if you don't leave that normal. So unless you have good reason, and we can do a whole nother show just on ship design. If you don't have really good reason, I would go normal, medium, normal on those 3 things. All right. Well, since we're in the ship design thing, we might as well continue. So, you know what? Actually, we'll go and design our own new ship. Actually, maybe we'll run a couple turns and then design our own ship, just so we can get an idea, because we're getting pretty deep in the weeds here. All right, so we can see our camper downs aren't much better than those German ships. Our Empress of India, it's the next class down. They've got 4 12-inch guns, 12 6-inch guns, and 12 3-inch guns. So 9 inches of armor. So similar armor to the British ship, the German ship we looked at, but bigger guns. We'd want to fight that further away, and probably this ship would be able to defeat that one given the right circumstances. Remember, they were 19 knots, so they could run away or try to run away. All right. So after all that, once I start the game and I'm now ready to go, I've set my doctrine, I've set my research, I've designed anything I need, currently designed, have a Corvette under design. We're building some other ships. If we're not at war, not in high tension with everyone, I'm going to reserve the fleet. They're already fair crew quality, so it's not going to hurt us too much to go into reserve. And if you notice, that knocks the price down. Our monthly balance went way up. We want to build up a little balance here, run some turns. Oh, and we do have to, I forgot, we got to put some people on foreign station. We need 31,000 tons. I really should design a foreign station ship. All right, let's take a look at a couple of these. Oof, that's a pretty lightly armed light cruiser. That's a better armored light cruiser. You know what? I'm going to keep these mostly as fleet cruisers. And then let's see, there's one more class. 8 5-inch. That's also a better one. We're going to take all these 3,000 ton Calypso class and Aretha class, and we're going to put those on not mothball. We want to put them on foreign station. All right, let's see where that gets us. Okay, that dropped it by 10,000 tons. Gonna have to put a couple of armored cruisers, so I guess we'll go with a smaller one. Let's take a look. 14 6-inch, yeah, that's an odd design. So we'll put those. Put one of those on foreign station. And we'll put one of our other 6,000 ton. All right, so now we've got enough ships on foreign station that we can process a turn. That's not the most efficient way to do it. The most efficient way would be to go back to your map and figure out exactly where, look on here, figure out where you need the extra tonnage and move ships, kind of have if you recall historically, the British had a home fleet, they had a North Sea fleet, they had a Mediterranean fleet, and if you do that, you can be more efficient. It'll cost more in maintenance costs to have a ship on foreign service than it would to be based just in a certain place. And these ships are moving around. You don't really have a lot of control over where they are. So they're moving around, and if you needed one in a certain area, it may or may not be there because the AI moves them wherever they want them. All right, so we got ourselves set up. We're going to run a turn here and see what happens. Okay. You get some messages when you click the turn button. A month's going to go by. It's going to give you a number of messages, and sometimes important and sometimes events. In this case, so far, just turn messages. Germany's laid down a new heavy cruiser. Russia has ordered a battleship from a French shipyard. U.S. is building a 10-inch coastal battery in the southeastern seaboard, and Japan has ordered a cruiser of the Sama class from one of our shipyards. Oh, nice. We'll make a little money off of them. All right. And remember, we were designing those corvettes. They're ready for construction. We could rework the design. If during that month a few techs had popped off, it might be worth it to go back. But in this case, we'll just go to the build screen. We've seen the build screen before. Before there wasn't a Corvette. Now that's on there. Most you can build at one time is 12. We're going to build 12 of those. We've got $6,000 in budget. That's going to use $2,000 per month, so that's no issue. All right, so those show up, and it automatically flips to our ships under construction. And you can see we've got 12 Elmsgarth corvettes being designed. They'll take 11 months to complete. They each cost $171 a month. All right, easy enough. We'll process another turn. Oh, now we have enough money for the docks. So we've got. I know the docks are 2,000 plus, but we've got enough for that. So we're going to build some more docks. 2,800. 2,800 is the cost for the docks. That comes out of your funds. So yep, we want to do that. That'll start our dock size. The bigger the dock size, the bigger the ship you can build. So you want to, unless you're really hurting on money, you want to keep increasing your dock size up until, World War II era-ish. You want to be in the 50,000 ton range or more, even depending. If you want to build a Yamato, you want to be in the 70,000 ton range. All right. So those ships we put on foreign station, you can see they're starting to move around. Some of those are going to start to move around. We've got some destroyers in the med. We got destroyers all over the place. I guess that makes sense. We'll just leave those there. I don't know why these camper downs are. We've got one in West Africa, one in the Indian Ocean, one in the Med, another one in the Indian Ocean, one Empress of India in Northern Europe. This is the British. You got ships everywhere. If you want to get in a fight, you have to call everybody home. All right. Anyway, we'll add a little spying on the Germans. I think we'll try to get to the point where we at least start a war with them. All right, we'll process another turn. Nothing else going on. Okay, interesting. This is an event you get once in a while. One of our major shipyards is short on orders and is offering to build another Corvette in 10 months at 10% discount on the total price. Yeah, so obviously, generally, it is a good idea to do it, especially since I was going to build another 12 right now. We'll take that. It gives you the chance to name the ship if you want. We don't need to name it. Forward. All right, we just talked about events you might get. Here's one. The Prime Minister wants battleships to increase our national prestige. He wants you to build an additional 3 battleships. All right. If you mouse over it, it'll give you an idea of what the effect's going to be. So I mouse over that, and it says budget minus, prestige double minus. So we're going to lose budget and lose prestige. That's something that we don't want to do. If we say yes, budget's going to go up. That's good. Prestige is going to go up. That's good. But tension is going to go up. It's not as good, but tension's pretty low all the way across. So we're going to have to do that. That means I really don't want to design a new battleship. But we're going to have to do that, and we'll have a few months to design and build it before that comes up. Now, when we click on this, you'll see it'll show up under build requirements here in a little bit here. There we go. Well, he said 3, but now it says we got to have 4. Thank you. All right, the French and the Germans have laid down some new ships. Since we've got to design one, we might as well take a look. All right, our budget went up. We've got 5,000 in budget surplus right now. We've got about 7 months before we have 2 of the armored cruisers come in, so that'll give us another 4,000. Just trying to get an idea of what we can play with in budget and designing the ship. All right, so we're going to, for the Prime Minister, build 4 battleships. All right, so I chose design ship. I chose battleship, and I'm going to auto design. Do I want to auto design? Yes, I would. All right. Well, that's a big fat boy, isn't it there? But not bad. I mean, if you got to make a ship, you might as well make a good one. All right, we're using our 13-inch guns, and we talked about that before, gun quality. So first thing we'll take a look at is gun data. All right, and just as is, this ship has an immunity zone from 5,000 to 9,000 yards against 13-inch guns. Our 13-inch minus quality -2. All right, this gives you an idea of what your armor penetration is at various ranges, and it also tells you the maximum range of these guns, 9,300 yards. Okay, so we're going to compare these to our 12-inch guns in a second, so we'll just keep track of the maximum range, 93, and at 5,000 yards we can penetrate 7.2. All right, we'll change the design for the 12-inch guns. They're -1, so they're still not the greatest, but we'll take a look. All right, their maximum range is 11,000 yards. They don't quite penetrate as far at, it was 7.2, so basically the same penetration at 5,000, but they've still got a 5-inch penetration all the way out to 11,000. All right, so let's look at those 13-inch guns again. They do 6 inches at 9,000. They don't go any further. So, and at 9,000 we're doing 5.7. So pretty equivalent. You can see pretty equivalent, and you can shoot further. So it may make sense to use the better quality smaller gun on a ship. In this case, we're going to go with the 13-inch because I'm going forward. I'm thinking these ships will stay around for a while. These will be ones that stay for a good period. So we're going to really up armor them, give them big guns. We'll be able to upgrade the guns. Maybe not quite as heavy as secondary, but we're gonna max out. All right, so we're gonna go to 16,000 tons, which is the max displacement for our local yard. Tells you up here. Also, you can look down there. Normal, medium, normal. We have. Make sure that 18 knots. That's reasonable for our fleet. Our fleet speed. We've got some 19-knot ships, but we're willing to go slower. If we try to make that 19, watch what we're looking at is the weight remaining here. This is the most important factor. So I switched that to 19. That was about 350 tons. Going the other way, we get about 300 tons back if we go to 17. We don't want to be that slow, but if we did, and that's a balance of how much weight our machinery is for the amount of horsepower we need. It looks like 18 is a pretty good break point right now for us. Okay, engine priority. We could switch to speed or reliability. Normal is decent for a battleship. If you're making fast destroyers or light cruisers, you may want to put them on speed to save a little weight. If we do that, you'll notice if I put it on speed, we'll get a little weight bonus. Not much, but a little one. Makes a lot more difference in a small ship. Fuel type is coal, because that's all we have. If we had oil or diesel fired, we could choose that. Continuing down, next thing is our belt armor. I want 12. I'm not sure we're going to get there. All right. And our belt coverage is normal. Narrow belt saves you some weight, but makes you more vulnerable to fire. All right, our belt extended, that's portions of the ship that aren't covered by that main armored belt, that main castle of armor. You can do a lot of reading on it, but basically a ship is designed with a heavy, thick belt that'll stop shells from penetrating into the important bits. The important bits being the boilers, the engines, and the machinery spaces, and the ammo storage spaces. That's what the belt covers. The belt extended will cover the less armored portions, things where you don't mind as much. So your screw shafts, your anchor locker up front, but you don't want to. You want to protect that, because if you didn't have any armor there, somebody with just 2-inch guns, they could make a really fast destroyer with 2-inch guns that could come up and pepper that area and cause a lot of flooding, cause you to sink. All right, deck at this stage of the war, and so belt extended of 3.5. I'm going to go to 3. That's still reasonable. Save us some weight. Deck of 2 inches. You need at least 2 inches to stop splinters from shells. So deck of 2 inches makes sense. As time goes on, ranges get higher. We get more plunging fire. You'll want to increase that deck. Deck extended, same thing. Extends to that deck goes over the vulnerable portions. The deck extended is the non-vulnerable. 1.5 is reasonable. You could drop it a little, but 1.5 is reasonable. Since I'm trying to keep this ship for a long period of time, I'm trying to go with heavy armor on the belt, heavy armor on the turrets. We're going to see if we can get 12 on those as well. I'm thinking that it's not going to happen, but we'll see. All right, 12 inches on the turrets. Turret tops 2.5. Make sure it's a full enclosed turret. Secondaries, we're going to drop to 2, and that got us pretty close to where we need to be. So we're accepting a lot more vulnerability on our secondaries. Basically, anything will go through those except splinters to save that weight. All right. Coming along here, this is the ship graphic. You can update that. It won't really make any change. You can draw it yourself. You need a whole class in that. There's stuff on their website how to do it. You can add lines there. Pretty much letting the designer work pretty much is good. I could do a quick class on that someday, but not today. All right, continuing on, we talked about gun armament a little bit. We've got 2 13-inch turrets, 2 gun turrets, A and Y. If we wanted to add turrets, we won't be able to on this ship. We don't have enough. Our tech isn't there yet, but if you wanted to add turrets, you'd click the Add Turrets button if you want to delete turrets or clear them. Next down is total rounds per gun. 100 is good for battleships at this era. Maybe 105, 110 rounds a gun. That also affects how many rounds your secondary has. So it may make sense to up it if you can. But in this case, we're still overweight. Our weight is still a little heavy, and our cost is going up. So we got to watch both of those. We're using Central Range Fire as our fire control. That's the only one available. Those will get better, and these ships will be able to be upgraded. Our secondary guns are 7-inch, and we talked about those. Those risk flash fire. So I'm going to drop those to 6-inch guns. You can see we're now positive on weight, so I think our design is in reach. Maybe make a few other changes. Those are in casemates. We can put them in turrets. We may not have the tech for it. Oh, we do. Probably don't have dual turrets. Okay, we do, but our rate of fire is reduced by 40% if we do that. Okay, so we don't want to do that. At this stage, casemates are fine. We don't need to update that. Maybe we can go 16. Oh, that puts us a little overweight. I don't want to go that far. So 7 per side. We can add a couple of tertiaries. So we've got 16 3-inch guns also in casemates. Maybe we can put those in. We could put those in turrets as well, but again, doesn't make a huge difference. That'll just help with firing at destroyers that get too close to us. All right, we've got 56 tons remaining. 2,100 a month. So we're within 1,000 of our of 3 of them. We got to build 4. This is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We either need to make a really cheap, crappy ship and call it the Prime Minister, or build the ships we need and just accept the fact that we're going to be hurting on money. So what's going to happen is we're going to do 3 months. This will cost 3,000 or 4,000 to design. Then we're going to do 3 months where we're designing it. So we'll get 12,000. We'll have about 20,000, and then we're going to have to start building these with about a 2,000 deficit. I know, into the weeds again. That's what this game is, into the weeds. If you like it, good. If you don't like it, well, there's other games that are out there too, I think. I've heard of other ones. Anyway, so I think we can make this work. Everything's still okay. I will see if we can add. That's a little low. We want to keep some weight for when we get a new fire control. But 105 rounds per gun is pretty good. We've got 2 torpedoes. Yeah, rule the weeds. It's exactly right, Weasel Boy. It's just I mean, but that's part of the fun of this game, is this kind of stuff. You can spend forever trying to really max everything, or the other way. And I want to play a game where I just kind of more role play, and I take a country and say, okay, all of their ships are going to have, the okay, let's just take sort of an example, a historical example. The Japanese had the Code of Bushido, and everything was attack. So maybe if you were playing the Japanese for fun, it might be fun to maximize their ships for attack, give them big guns, lots of speed, low armor, for example, and that way they can slash in and slash out. But there's a lot of different ways to play. It's just, anyway, it's fun. All right, so we've got 2 torpedo tubes. Torpedoes are useful in this era. Don't have enough to add another one, and obviously no flight installations. All right, we check this. It's all okay. Save it, and that's how we get to design. Okay, so it's going to cost 3,800. Take 3 months. All right, we'll let that happen. Oh, let's see. I guess if I took ships that are not in our northern Europe area, we can't put on reserve. So I was thinking about taking some ships from the Med to save some more budget money. But I don't think it's going to save enough. I could mothball some ships as well. That will also. So let's just look at one of these, Empress of India. That's, wow, all those are all over the place. All right, well, let's look at, here's one here. He's reserved for 110. If I choose to mothball it, it goes to 44, so almost a third. The problem is you can't have too much tonnage on mothballs. The Prime Minister gets mad at that too, and the crew quality gets worse more rapidly on mothball. But we will try to see if we can mothball those 4 ships. That'll save us a little more money. This is all we're all trying to balance. All right, and that's pretty good. So far, we gained 1 prestige for telling the Prime Minister we were going to build those 4 battleships. See if we can actually do it. All right, private shipbuilding is expanding. Maximum dock size increase. That's nice. Government in Germany has increased naval spending. We'd like us to do that too. All right, so our docks went up by 500 without us paying for it. That was good. U.S. has laid down an Inla-class battleship. Japan has ordered a Fuji-class from one of our yards. I wonder if we can build a ship of something they designed. Now, that would be kind of cool, though, wouldn't it? If they designed something and build it in our yards, we could steal it and build it. And we're good friends with the Japanese, that's fine. And we'll process another turn. Revolution in an African country has left some of our nationals stranded. What should we do? All right, so here's the type of events you get that will, these drive the tension and drive the game. All right, if we send a strong squadron to bombard the capital till our citizens are released, it will increase budget, increase prestige, and greatly increase tension. If we join an international squadron, it will increase budget and increase tension, but not quite so much. So we won't get to prestige, and the tension won't go up so much. If we resolve it via diplomatic means, we'll lose prestige. Tension will go down, which will mean we'll lose some budget. Again, you can't. There's times when you have to pay prestige to keep things from happening, but this is not one of them. I don't think we want to go to war yet, so we're not going to make it double. I don't need an extra prestige. We got one. We need our budget to go up a little. We'll say join an international squadron. All right, so you saw both the tension with the U.S. and Germany popped up. Okay, some more. France has laid down another cruiser, and Japan has ordered a Fuji. Problems in the delivery of equipment has delayed the construction of the Corvette Hearst, so one of our Corvettes will be a little slower. That's all right. We'd like to at least get those out before we get into war. All right. Our Barfleur class is ready for construction. We had no technology pop, so there's no reason to rework the design. Let's see. I'm going to take a look at what those Empress of India's cost. They cost 1,900. This costs 21. It's really not. We might as well just build the better ship. Four of those. Oof. All right, so we're 2,000 over our budget. So we can run that. We'll be able to run that for about 10 months. Hopefully, other things coming out will make it work. So we're going to build 4 of those. All right, wham. So we got 4 of those Barfleur classes. The Barfleur, the Majestic, the Jupiter, and the Magnificent. All right. Just about 1,900 a month in the hole, and we spent that first month's budget. So we can go for a few months. In 4 months, we got 2 ships coming out. That'll get us closer. I think we're going to be able to make it. All right, we'll run another turn. We may see some tension going up since we just built 4. laid down 4 more battleships. Gained another 1,000 tons of dock from private shipbuilding. That's nice. An eccentric scientist of doubtful repute offers to sell us his latest invention in anti-submarine warfare technology for 1440. Should we send him away, or it might revolutionize? You know what? I always like to support these, especially in Britain. What do they call them? Boffins. I like to support these boffins. I think we're going to still be able to balance our budget so that 1440 we can live with. All right. Now here's our first research report. Our scientists report they've suffered a temporary setback in figuring out the concept of hardened AP penetrators. Okay, well, keep working at it, boys. There we go. Naval gun research, improved 8-inch guns, quality 1 8-inch guns. That's a really good one. I like 8-inch guns. I usually, when I design an armored cruiser, I use an 8-inch gun exclusively, even though you can go up to 10-inch guns. I just like that 8-inch gun cruiser gives you the ability to have a little more speed. So quality 1 8-inch guns, that's outstanding when we go to build some of our own cruisers. All right, Germany is increasing naval budget. We've delayed the completion of the Magnificent by a month. That's okay. It's on there, so. And I think we'll just go today until we get the that was okay signal from the Prime Minister for the build requirements, because this is a pretty long stream. So we'll stop here in a couple more turns. Nothing else we need to do. Unrest level is under control. Guess these bar floors will be our home fleet. All right, nothing different. We're down to 14,000, but we're still holding out. All right, there it is. So you're receiving much praise for having built the requested number of battleships. Thank you, Prime Minister. All right, so we got another prestige out of that. So we got another prestige. We've built what we need. We've got about 6 months left of budget deficit before we draw into our reserve. But next month, and I'll process this next turn just so we can see, in a month or two, these 2 armored cruisers are going to come into our force, and so that will clear up that budget issue. Wow, another 500 tons of. We haven't even finished the docks that we're building, and we've gained 2,000 tons of dock. That's nice. Look at that. The invention of the eccentric scientist has proven to be of considerable value in our research in anti-submarine warfare technology. So that was worth the money. That was great. Japan wants an alliance. Prime Minister thinks this can make it possible to save on defense. All right. That's going to drop budget and tension a little. We don't really want to. I don't want an international arms conference. That could result in a treaty, which might result in us limiting what we can build. We'll be stronger alone. We'll increase tension. I'm half and half on this one. We're going to get those ships out, so I think we can survive a little budget. And having an ally, especially over there in the Southeast Asia, we don't want to project power there. We do have colonies. We don't want to project. We don't want to project power there at great costs, and so that would help us out. All right, I'm going to say yes to that one. So this one we'll see from a tutorial standpoint. We'll see budget and tension will decrease. So we're 314,280. We've negotiated a treaty, and we saw Japan's tension went down. U.S. went up a little. Germany stayed the same. And you see our budget went down to 298. Not too bad. We lost 16,000. We're 3,000 in the hole. We can go 3 months. We're going to make it. All right, so next turn. Cruiser is commissioned. Sparte is commissioned. All right, here's another event. And now these are what drives the game. This is how you drive the game towards who you want to fight or not fight based on what you make these decisions. And that's the other part of being the First Lord of Admiralty. A naval visit by Italy. You're asked by a journalist to comment on the visiting ships. All right, do we think we're impressed by their well-built and advanced ships with smart-looking crews and dashing and intelligent officers? Maybe. We're happy to have hosted these fine ships and friendly crews. That's neutral. The first one would lose prestige and tension, and the third one would gain prestige and tension. These rust buckets with indifferently trained sailors and indolent officers are no match for our Navy. All right, so if we wanted to pump up tension with Italy to start a fight, obviously that would be the way to do it. I don't mind having low tension with Italy. I don't think we don't need to drop. We just did drop tension a little. I definitely don't want to drop prestige. So we're happy to have hosted them. All right, research breakthrough, machinery development. And this is exactly what we talked about. We're researching that machinery. Improved surface condenser. We get a 1% weight savings on machinery. All right, another research breakthrough, Krupp armor. Okay, a quality armor. Wow, a third one. That's pretty good. Third research breakthrough, turrets and gun mountings, hydraulic recoil, gradual rate of fire improvement for our nation. That's pretty nice. That was good. 3 in 1 turn is really nice. All right, so it doesn't seem like much, that 1%, but remember that machinery weight is pretty heavy. So if we open that design now, remember we had about 10 tons of weight remaining. With that new machinery, if we were to build a new Balfour right now with what we've learned, we'd have 31 tons remaining. You can go back and retrofit ships and add better machinery and all that. It's a balance of whether it costs better or not, but you can see that's how that tech feeds right into your design. All right, and with that, I think we're going to stop. We've got our docks just about built. We're with those 2 cruisers coming out. We're positive for our budget, so we avoided that crisis. We're going to save the game and we're going to quit and move forward. Everybody, thanks for watching. I can continue this, do some other stuff, but I just want to give an overview of basically how to get started. That's from now on, the game just progresses like this. Well, I'll do one more to try to get us into a battle, so I can show you the battle interface and that kind of stuff. I'll do that in a couple days, and that'll give a good tutorial on how to do that, because it's definitely a lot. It's a big hill to climb when you first start, but if you like this sort of game and this sort of hands-on design, I mean, you really can dig, as you saw a little today. I guess you saw a lot. You can really dig down into the weeds. All right. Thanks again for watching. This is LHI-Magic. Have a great day, and we'll see you. Make sure to watch my ongoing stream with Italy. We're in a good war right now with France, and I hope to beat them on my next game. That's it, everybody. Have a great day.